Texas, the land of endless opportunity and booming economies, where millions chase the dream of homeownership in the Lone Star State. But in 2025, that dream is becoming a financial nightmare for unsuspecting buyers walking into markets prime for devastation. El Paso. This border city might seem like an affordable haven with median home prices around $195,000. But don't let those numbers fool you. When the local median income sits at just $45,000 annually, you're looking at a price-to-income ratio that makes homeownership a dangerous stretch for most families. El Paso's economy leans heavily on Fort Bliss, the massive military installation that employs over 25,000 people. This dependency creates a house of cards that could collapse with any shift in defense spending or base realignment. Military families, traditionally reliable homebuyers, are increasingly hesitant to commit to purchases given uncertainty about future deployments and budget cuts. The market indicators tell a troubling story. Housing inventory has surged 30% year over year, with homes now sitting an average of 85 days on the market. That's nearly triple the national average for desirable markets. Sellers are watching their properties languish while carrying costs pile up month after month. Cross-border trade disruptions have hammered the local economy, with manufacturing jobs declining 15% since 2023. Immigration policy changes continue to create economic uncertainty, affecting everything from labor markets to consumer spending. When your city's economic foundation depends on federal policy decisions made in Washington, you're essentially gambling on political stability. For families drawn to El Paso's affordability and cultural richness, the reality is harsh. What appears to be an accessible market is actually a financial trap, where modest incomes can't support even these relatively low home prices. While El Paso struggles with economic dependency, our next city faces the opposite problem. Too much growth too fast. Killeen. Here's where explosive growth meets military uncertainty, creating a perfect storm for home buyers. With median home prices at $165,000, Killeen might appear affordable until you realize that 80% of the local economy depends entirely on Fort Hood. When one employer controls your entire market, you're not buying a home. You're betting on the Pentagon's budget priorities. Builders went on a construction frenzy, increasing new home starts by 40% over the past 2 years. They assumed military families would keep buying at the same pace forever. But defense spending uncertainty has military personnel hitting the brakes on major purchases, leaving neighborhoods full of brand new homes with no buyers. The numbers are staggering. Average time on market has climbed to 95 days, with 25% of sellers forced into price cuts just to generate interest. That's not a healthy market correction. That's a market in distress. Military families who once snapped up homes within weeks are now taking months to decide, if they decide at all. The deeper concern? Persistent rumors about base realignment and closure reviews have everyone on edge. Fort Hood employs over 50,000 people, making it one of the largest military installations in the world. But size doesn't guarantee permanence when Congress looks for budget cuts. Recent Pentagon efficiency studies have specifically mentioned reviewing large installations for potential consolidation. When your city's survival depends on political decisions made thousands of miles away, every home purchase becomes a gamble on national defense priorities. From military dependency to energy boom aftermath, our next city shows what happens when oil dreams turn to dust. Midland. When oil prices soared above $90 per barrel in 2022, this West Texas city became a modern-day gold rush destination. Home prices rocketed to $285,000 as energy workers flooded in with six-figure salaries and signing bonuses. But what goes up in the oil patch comes crashing down just as fast. Energy sector layoffs have slashed the buyer pool by 35% over the past 18 months. Companies that were hiring aggressively are now cutting entire departments as oil prices stabilize and drilling activity slows. Those high-paying jobs that justified expensive mortgages, they're disappearing faster than water in the Permian Basin desert. The construction boom created a massive oversupply that's now choking the market. Builders who threw up subdivisions expecting endless demand are stuck with hundreds of completed homes and no buyers who can afford them. You're looking at a textbook case of speculative overbuilding meeting economic reality. Foreclosures tell the brutal story. They've increased 50% compared to 2024 as energy workers who stretched for expensive homes during the boom now face unemployment or massive pay cuts. These aren't just the statistics. They're families watching their dreams evaporate along with their equity. The volatility isn't just cyclical anymore. Energy companies are pivoting to automation and efficiency, meaning fewer high-paying jobs even when oil rebounds. Midland's boom-bust cycle has accelerated, leaving anyone buying now vulnerable to the next downturn that could arrive without warning. While Midland's oil economy creates obvious risks, our next city's problems are hidden beneath suburban charm. Beaumont. The median home price of $145,000 might look tempting, but you're buying into a city where industrial decline meets environmental uncertainty. This Southeast Texas petrochemical hub built its economy on refineries and chemical plants that are now shutting down or dramatically reducing operations. Major petrochemical employers have slashed their workforce by 20% since 2023. ExxonMobil, Chevron, and other industry giants are consolidating operations, leaving thousands of skilled workers scrambling for jobs that simply don't exist locally anymore. When your city's primary employers are in retreat, property values follow them down. Then there's the insurance nightmare. Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Delta, and subsequent storms have pushed homeowners' insurance premiums up 40% annually. You're not just buying a house, you're signing up for insurance costs that could easily exceed your mortgage payment within a few years. Many insurers have simply stopped writing new policies in the area altogether. Environmental concerns add another layer of risk that most buyers never consider. Decades of industrial activity have left soil and groundwater contamination issues that affect property values in certain neighborhoods. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality has identified multiple Superfund sites within the metropolitan area, creating long-term liability concerns for homeowners. Recent air quality studies show pollution levels that exceed EPA standards on multiple days throughout the year. You're not just facing declining property values, you're potentially compromising your family's health for the sake of what appears to be affordable housing. From industrial decline to suburban sprawl gone wrong, our next city represents the dangers of unchecked growth. Conroe. This Houston suburb represents what happens when explosive growth steamrolls common sense. Median home prices have rocketed to $385,000, a staggering 45% increase in just 3 years. Families who could afford homes here in 2021 are now completely priced out, creating an unsustainable bubble built on speculation rather than economic fundamentals. The infrastructure simply can't handle the population explosion. School districts are so overcrowded that students attend classes in portable buildings, while bond elections to build new facilities repeatedly fail. When you're buying a home where your children might spend their education in temporary classrooms, you're not investing in community stability. Builders went absolutely wild, increasing new home inventory by 60% as they chased quick profits during the growth surge. Now they're stuck with subdivisions full of spec homes that sit empty month after month. The roads leading to these developments turn into parking lots during rush hour, with some residents reporting 90-minute commutes to Houston that used to take 30 minutes. Flooding issues compound the transportation nightmare. Harris County's rapid development has eliminated natural drainage, turning moderate rainfall into major flooding events. Insurance companies are taking notice, with flood insurance requirements expanding beyond traditional flood zones. The Lake Conroe area, once a peaceful retreat, now resembles a construction zone with heavy machinery and traffic disrupting the quality of life that originally attracted residents. You're paying premium prices for a community that's lost the charm it was selling. While Conroe suffers from growth pains, our next city shows how even established markets can crumble. Amarillo. Even established markets built on decades of agricultural stability are crumbling under modern economic pressures. With median home prices at $175,000, Amarillo might seem like a bargain until you realize you're buying into a city where the economic foundation is literally blowing away with the topsoil. The agricultural sector that sustained this panhandle community for generations is in steep decline. Persistent drought conditions, rising input costs, and corporate farm consolidation have eliminated thousands of family operations. When local banks report agricultural loan defaults up 28% from last year, you're looking at an economy in free fall. Extreme weather events are battering both the agricultural base and residential properties. The city has experienced record-breaking hailstorms, tornado activity, and wind events that cause millions in property damage annually. Insurance companies are responding with premium increases that often exceed mortgage payments, making homeownership financially impossible for many residents. The youth exodus tells the real story. Young adults are fleeing to Dallas, Austin, and other metropolitan areas where career opportunities actually exist. Census data shows the 18 to 34 age group has declined by 15% since 2020, leaving an aging population that can't sustain a healthy housing market. Market indicators reflect this demographic crisis. 35% of homes now sit on the market for over 120 days, with many sellers eventually withdrawing their listings rather than accepting devastating price cuts. When the next generation abandons your city, property values follow them out the door. From agricultural struggles to tech bubble aftermath, our next city represents the danger of betting on Silicon Hills dreams. Round Rock. The Silicon Hills dream built this Austin suburb into a tech worker paradise where median home prices soared to $465,000 on the promise of endless high-paying jobs. But when the tech bubble burst, it left families holding mortgages they can no longer afford and equity that's evaporating faster than their job security. Dell Technologies, the city's flagship employer, has slashed its workforce by 15% since late 2023. Meta, Apple, and other tech giants that established major operations here are following suit with their own rounds of layoffs and hiring freezes. The six-figure salaries that justified these astronomical home prices are disappearing, leaving behind a buyer pool that can't support current market values. Builders went on a construction spree during the boom years, creating a 55% increase in new home inventory that's now choking the market. Subdivisions that once sold out before completion are sitting with dozens of completed homes and no qualified buyers willing to take on the financial risk. The property tax burden makes the situation even worse. Homeowners are paying an average of $12,000 annually in property taxes alone, before factoring in mortgage payments, insurance, and maintenance costs. That's $1,000 per month just in taxes for the privilege of living in a suburb where the economic foundation is crumbling. Tech workers who moved here expecting career growth are now facing unemployment or forced relocations to other markets. When your city's entire identity depends on an industry known for volatility, every home purchase becomes a bet on continued prosperity. While Round Rock feels tech sector pain, our next city shows how even oil money can't save overheated markets. Frisco. When corporate relocations and rapid development collide with speculative fever, you get a housing market that defies all economic logic. Median home prices peaked at $685,000 during the frenzy, driven by a perfect storm of corporate headquarters moving from California and New York, plus developers who believed the growth would never stop. The corporate relocation wave that fueled Frisco's meteoric rise has slowed to a trickle. Companies that once rushed to establish Texas operations are now reassessing their expansion plans amid economic uncertainty. Toyota, Liberty Mutual, and other major employers who drove the initial boom are no longer adding headcount at the pace that justified these astronomical housing costs. Inventory has exploded by 65% year over year as speculative buyers and investors scramble to exit before the market collapses completely. Builders who broke ground on luxury developments expecting endless corporate demand are now staring at neighborhoods full of empty million-dollar homes that nobody can afford. Property taxes tell the brutal story of unsustainable costs. Median homeowners now face over $15,000 annually in property taxes alone, before mortgage payments, insurance, and maintenance. That's more than $1,200 monthly just for the privilege of living in a suburb where the economic justification is evaporating. The luxury segment shows the clearest warning signs. Homes originally priced above $1 million are seeing price reductions of 45% as wealthy buyers realize they can get more value elsewhere. When luxury buyers abandon your market, the entire price structure collapses from the top down. From suburban excess to urban chaos, our second worst market shows what happens when America's fourth largest city overheats. Houston, America's fourth largest city and energy capital, is experiencing a market-wide collapse that makes suburban problems look manageable by comparison. With median home prices at $295,000, Houston might appear affordable until you realize that 40% of the local economy depends on an energy sector that's shedding jobs and relocating operations at an alarming pace. Hurricane and flooding insurance costs are rising 50% annually, turning homeownership into a financial nightmare, even for those who can afford the purchase price. Hurricane Harvey's devastation in 2017 was just the beginning. Subsequent storms have convinced insurance companies that Houston represents an unacceptable risk, leading many to stop writing new policies altogether. The construction industry went completely insane during the pandemic boom, with new home construction outpacing actual buyer absorption by 70%. Entire subdivisions sit empty across Harris County, while builders offer increasingly desperate incentives that still can't move inventory. Major employers are quietly relocating operations to other states, citing regulatory concerns, infrastructure problems, and quality of life issues. Chevron moved its headquarters to California, while other energy giants are consolidating operations in markets they consider more stable and business-friendly. The flooding risk isn't just about insurance costs, it's about fundamental habitability. Climate studies show Houston faces increasing precipitation and storm intensity that will make large portions of the metropolitan area unlivable within the next decade. You're not just buying a home in a declining market, you're betting against physics itself. But if Houston's problems seem overwhelming, our number one worst market makes the nation's energy capital look stable. Austin, the absolute worst city to buy a home in Texas for 2025, where the tech capital dream has become a buyer's worst nightmare. Median home prices reached $525,000 before the sharp decline began. But even with falling prices, Austin represents the most dangerous housing investment in the entire state. The tech exodus is unprecedented. Tesla, Meta, Apple, and other major employers are reducing their Austin workforce by 25% while relocating operations to states with more business-friendly environments. Elon Musk's highly publicized departure signaled what industry insiders already knew. Austin's golden era as a tech destination is over. Housing inventory has surged 75% year over year as panic selling grips the market. The luxury segment has completely collapsed, with million-dollar homes sitting empty for months while desperate sellers slash prices by hundreds of thousands just to generate interest. Political climate and regulatory changes are driving businesses away faster than they arrived. Major corporations cite regulatory uncertainty, rising operational costs, and political tensions as reasons for relocating to Florida, Tennessee, and other states that actively court business investment. Even with declining home prices, affordability remains impossible for most residents. Property taxes, utilities, and general cost of living have reached levels where a median-priced home requires a household income exceeding $150,000 annually. When Austin energy bills alone can exceed $500 monthly, home ownership becomes financially impossible even for tech workers who still have jobs. This perfect storm of overbuilding, corporate exodus, and affordability crisis creates unprecedented market risk that could take decades to resolve. Austin's housing market represents the most spectacular bubble burst in Texas history,